Well, good afternoon, those of you that are joining us today, and those that may be watching the video. Our speaker today is Gina Martens. She currently serves at St. Paul's Lutheran Church and School in Concordia, Missouri, where she's the 8th grade homeroom teacher and English language arts teacher for middle school. She also serves as a part-time director of family life ministries for the church, as well as coaches cross country and track. And she's a graduate of Concordia University, Nebraska, a wife, mother of 2 college-age daughters. She enjoys writing for the Bulletin at church and church newsletter, and has been a part of helping to develop and implement the milestone ministries at St. Paul's Church. She knows Jesus as her Savior and has the joy of sharing that news with children and families every day. And her topic today is Guardians of the Flame, passing the torch to the next generation. So Gina, welcome. We're glad to have you with us.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm excited to be here. I'd like to start with a word of prayer. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day and for all of the blessings that you give us. I would ask today that you help me communicate effectively your word to this group of people, sharing some of the things that our church has done to further the gospel and to further your kingdom. In your name we pray. Amen. So welcome to everyone who's out there. Guardians of the Flame, passing the torch to the next generation is the title of my presentation. And this little guy's face just makes me smile every time I see him. This is what it's all about. It's about passing on this love of Jesus to the next generation. So as I was introduced, this is a little bit of my background. I am a member of St. Paul's Lutheran Church and School, product of Lutheran schools, wife of mother of 2 college-age daughters. I teach 8th grade homeroom, and we're departmentalized, so English language arts for 6th through 8th. Family life director, coach cross country and track. I do enjoy writing, and I do enjoy doing things with my family, outdoor things. And this is who I do life with. More recently, just my husband and I, since we are empty nesters, but this is my family. And this was a vacation that we took a couple of summers ago out to Martens National Park in Moab, Utah. And I included these pictures because the Lord never ceases to amaze me with the beauty that he puts in front of me. And we don't have to travel to a national park to realize that. God tucks those things into our each and every day, and what blessings those are. I got my inspiration for the title, The Guardians of the Flame, passing the torch to the next generation, because I'm a runner. And so I find a lot of parallels between my spiritual life and my training. And that's why I chose this. I did a little bit of research for this. And so several months before the Olympic Games, this torch is lit at Olympia, Greece, and it's passed along until it gets to the games at the opening ceremony. And we are called to run the race and to pass the torch to the next generation. And so going back to Hebrews, and I apologize, I don't have that right here in front of me. But Hebrews talks about running the race and passing on that torch and not being weary. So why are we so concerned about families? I'm going to be talking about 3 specific things: the why, the what, and the how. So why we should concentrate on families, what are milestones, and what are some things that we need to be looking at, and then alongside parents to support them. Families are critical to the health of our society and our congregations. They are the most influential institution that our children will ever come into contact with. Families are also in warfare against a very powerful force. The devil obviously is always going to be right there by us. And I think sometimes he works harder on us because we are proclaiming the gospel of Christ. And Jeffrey Schubert says anything we can do in the name of Christ to strengthen, encourage, and heal homes is better than doing nothing at all or just talking about it. Satan is a powerful force to be reckoned with, and George Barna's research shows that apart from church-based programs, the typical Christian spends less than 3 hours per month to jointly develop or apply their faith, and he will use every tactic possible to keep us distracted. Why wouldn't he want to distract families? Because if he distracts families, then we can't build that unity, we can't build those relationships, and we can't grow our churches. The beginning of my presentation is a little bit statistic heavy and that in that type of realm, because I want to point out that the why it is so important that we concentrate on our families. Church leaders agree that the responsibilities for the child's spiritual formation development should start with parents. But despite this fact, the data demonstrates that the church has placed little emphasis on training and equipping these parents. Sometimes I think when we equip parents with something, we just automatically expect them to be able to use it. And that's not necessarily the case. I know that that comes in my classroom too. Sometimes I think, well, you know, shouldn't these kids know how to show empathy or be sympathetic to each other? And that's not always the case. That's something that I think we're going to have to be more and more intentional about actually teaching not only our children, but also our parents. So we have families from all walks of life. We have blended families. Some kiddos might not even go home at night. Some may live with their grandparents. Some are adopted. Some have family who are in the military. And so maybe instead of where our families are going, maybe the more important question to ask is, where are our families coming from and how can we meet them where they are? Because we have a responsibility to minister to them. And the quote at the top of the other slide said, "The future of the church goes as the family goes." I ran across this story about a year ago talking about a herd of elephants. So how does the culture pass on the best of human wisdom? These values are learned through modeling. They're learned through engaging with each other, through dialogue, through discussing and practicing. And so I read about this herd of elephants on an African game park. And this herd of elephants was overpopulated, and the African rangers thought that a good way to deal with this overpopulation of this herd would be to shoot some of the older males. So that's what they did. And within a few months, they realized that this herd was completely dysfunctional. They were eating things that would poison them and cause them to die. They were rampaging cities. They were killing rhinos and gazelles. And that was something that was unheard of in previous herds. And they didn't know where their migratory patterns were. And so after watching the decline of this herd, they eventually had to destroy the herd. And they realized that it was because they had no mentors. There were no leaders in that herd anymore. And those leaders would show these elephants their migratory routes, show them what to eat, keep them in line, and so forth. They created that stability to ensure the success of the next generations. And I see that applying to us as humans too. You know, our older members carry a lot of wisdom, and we've tried to do some intergenerational events just to mix those two cultures and to realize that the passing on of this from generation to generation is so incredibly important. So statistics say that in a typical week, fewer than 10% of parents who regularly attend church with their kids read the Bible or pray together other than at meal times or participate in any act of service as a unit. And even fewer families, 1 out of every 20, have any type of worship experience together with their kids other than while they are at church during a typical month. I think that act of service is a very powerful motivator. My husband and I had the opportunity to serve at Joplin, and that really opened my eyes as to what acts of service can do. And so when the tornado came through Jefferson City in 2019, our family, myself, my husband, and my 2 girls went along with some other of our congregational members to Jeff City to help clean up. My husband is a member of the ALERT team, Lutheran Early Response team. And we thought that it was really important that our girls serve with us and see how acts of service and acts of kindness can affect other people, and just seeing that expression of gratitude in the receiver's eyes. And, you know, I think it goes beyond ourselves. It's doing something for someone else that we don't expect a reward from. We don't expect to gain anything from. We do it because we want to serve. And we want to show that love of Jesus. And I think that's very important for our youth to see that in us. And my girls still talk about that to this day. So I know it had an impact on them. The overall rate of retention for LCMS members from our confirmation to adulthood has been about only 1 retained for every 3 confirmed. Relational factors were among the strongest predictors of retention of young people. So where do people learn what relationships look like? They learn that from their families, hopefully healthy relationships. But again, we know the devil is lurking right there, and it's important for us as a church to come alongside those families and mentor those families. And you might say, yeah, but we don't have time for another program. I get that. Faith is not a program, and kids will make time for relationships that matter to them. And that's, anytime you have a group of youth coming together, where Jesus is in the center and discussing the word of God, that is some powerful stuff. Faith isn't a program, because when the program runs its course, what happens to the youth? They go find something else to fill that void. So faith is a process. It's a way of life. It's about having a personal relationship with Jesus in our homes. And the challenge is, how do we teach that, and how do we carve out time to make that an important thing? So what are some problems that the church faces? Declining engagement. We've seen that even in our milestone celebrations. The younger ones, the milestones that we have for our younger children, the younger children seem to participate more. And as we go up the scale, we see a little bit less. And then you hear people, oh, we're just too busy. We don't have time. There are a lot of things competing for our family's time out there. And that it is a problem, and I don't have a lot of answers for that either. I wish there was a magic solution, but I think it comes down to being intentional and prioritizing. Another problem that the church faces is a loss of standing. I think, where do you go when you have a problem? A lot of people go to the internet. Let's Google this. Let's look up this and see what we can find. TV, other things, but the first response is not necessarily the church as a resource. My daughter had an autoimmune disorder. She suffered from what is called PANDAS, that stands for Pediatric Autoimmune Neuropsychiatric Disorder Associated with the Strep virus. That was a very, very difficult time for my family. And if I did not have the support of my congregation through prayers, through letters, through phone calls, I would not have made it through that time. And that's a whole nother conversation and presentation in itself. But if you want to talk to me about that, I will be available to do that. I'll give me my contact information at the end. But again, just having that support of believers and that support of that foundation underneath of you. And then ill-equipped parents. I think sometimes the parents think, oh, let's leave the faith formation to the professionals, the teachers and the pastors. And each generation becomes less and less involved in church. Many are 2 to 3 generations removed from having devotions in the home, sitting down as a family and eating together, reading words from the Bible. Many want to have that spiritual connection, but they don't know how. They've never experienced it in their homes growing up. So how are they supposed to pass that along? And I stuck this slide in here, social media, that's a whole nother topic in itself, but social media is certainly influencing and affecting our teens. This is just some teen slang. I had to ask some of my girls what some of these actually meant. Today, this society is obsessed with expressive individualism, and there's nothing wrong with having a good self-concept, but this expressive individualism is a drive to create your own identity, and you hear phrases like you be you and be true to yourself and you only live once. And while some of those phrases seem harmless, I think some of the attitudes expressed by those phrases definitely get ingrained in our children's brains. And sometimes that can lead to risky choices. I read about something, 6 or 7 months ago, ROGD, and it's rapid onset gender dysphoria. Kids see things on social media. They talk to their friends. They see that their friends are having doubts about their identity. And then, maybe I guess I feel this way too. And it's that social contagion is a big determinant of this rapid onset gender dysphoria. So just to make the point that there is a lot of stuff out there that our youth are dealing with that back in my day was not there. So in dealing with families, I think we need to be authentic and we need to listen. We need to admit that the world is a broken place. And just because we are Christians doesn't mean that everything's going to be rainbows and unicorns. You know, it says that we will have trials and tribulations on this earth, but that is exactly why we need the gospel of Christ. So listening to some other voices, most parents will end up getting religiously out of their children what they are themselves. The church's role is to be equippers of families. What we ought to do is let the kids drop their parents off at church, train the parents, and send them back to their mission field, their home, to grow Christians. Again, just reiterating that the home is the most important influence and determiner of faith in children. So we get to this new paradigm, and I got this from the Family Friendly Church by Ben Freudenberg. I had the opportunity to go through a Family Life Institute training with him, as well as some other great presenters. And the model used to be more church-centered. You know, I grew up in a country church, and I remember church was our social life. During the summer, we went to town maybe once a week for groceries, and the church is what we did. After church, you know, we'd hang out outside under the shade trees, and the grownups would talk, the kids would run around, play tag. We had ice cream socials, we had youth group, and that potlucks, and that was what we did. So unlike today, where we run at a breakneck speed, trying to get on to the next event. So going to this new paradigm, this is home-centered, church-supported. It's a figure 8 model. It's a fluid model. The home, if you see on that diagram, the home is the intersection in the middle. The church shapes the home. So if you go to the bottom of that figure 8, the church nurtures, heals, cares for. It's our place of worship. It equips the home so that the families can influence the people who live in the community. So if you go to the top of that figure 8, the families influence people in their workplace, in the school, in their marketplace, in the neighborhood, in places of recreation. People are always moving in and out of this model. So some people go on to be in missions. Some people go home to heaven to live with Jesus. Some people are creating new faith communities. So there's always people moving in, there's always people moving out. A very fluid model. And what better resource do we have than families to pass on that flame? So now I'm going to get in a little bit to the what. What are milestones? So milestones recognize a certain stage in the faith life of our children. We gift the family or the individual with a resource, and then we teach them how to use this resource, and we lift them up in prayer. These are our third graders, along with our comfort dog, Thomas. And at the third grade milestone, we give them Luther's Small Catechism. And this is what they use throughout their grade school years. Of course, we hope that that goes home as well. And an important part of these milestones is this, what we call an equipping event. And that is for the families to come along with their children to this equipping event. We have it during our Sunday school hour because we found that that works best for most families. We tried it at different times on a Saturday or on a Sunday evening, and we found that during the Sunday school time just works best for us. But that equipping event is teaching them how to use the resource, how to use the catechism, how do those words in the catechism apply to daily life, and how do we use this book at home? These were some fine young men that were confirmed a few years ago. This is just a list of our milestones that we have currently at St. Paul's Church in Concordia, Missouri. And this is kind of listed as to how it starts out the school year. We start out with our second grade Bible milestone. I can just show you real quick some of the resources we use. We use this Faith Alive Bible, and this is the one that they use throughout their schooling for their classes and up into confirmation. Again, we hope this resource goes back and forth to home as well. But that's the resource that we give for our second grade Bibles. Then we come to our 4-year-old worship milestone. This is the newest one that we have added to our celebrations. And at our 4-year-old worship milestone, we have gifted them with My First Hymnal. If you haven't seen this resource, it is beautifully done, very well done. It has proved to be a great tool in the homes of our families. Then 6th grade stewardship. What we do with that is we gift them, we have a Thrivent representative who's a member of our church that leads this one, along with a teacher who taught economics. So they are both very well qualified to talk about stewardship. If you look down the list, you'll see that we also do a 1st grade stewardship a little bit later, but the 6th grade stewardship, we used to give them the cash cachet, which Thrivent no longer makes, but we give them something to organize their money in and show them how to share, spend, save, and so forth. And then our 1st grade stewardship milestone, we give the blue piggy banks. Kindergarten Bibles, we have gifted the kindergartners with this Bible, the Story Bible from CPH. Again, pictures are absolutely beautiful in this resource, and it has proved to serve us well. Then we have 2 family Sunday schools. I'll talk a little bit more about those later, but we have an Advent Family Sunday School and a Lenten Family Sunday School, and the whole family participates in these. We have a new driver milestone in January where we celebrate the up and coming new drivers, praying God's peace and safety for them as they go out onto the road. One of the speakers that I have is a retired highway patrolman that comes in and talks a little bit to those new drivers about the responsibilities and freedoms that they have. Then we go on to our 3rd grade catechisms, which you saw a picture of that earlier. We gift them with Luther's Small Catechism, 1st grade stewardship. Then we have a confirmation milestone and a high school graduation milestone, and where we gift them with this College 101 book as they are headed off to a new chapter of their life. So as a church, we want to encourage, first of all, we want to equip, and then we want to come alongside our families as well as lift them up in prayer. This is a picture of our 4-year-old worship milestone. Pastor is showing them the baptismal font. And so what we do with this one is we gather in the church, and then the pastors just show some of the things that make up our worship services. They take them up to the altar and show them what all is involved with, like the communion, why there's special things out, the colors, just a lot of exploratory things that 4-year-olds might have questions about. Even before this 4-year-old worship milestone, I am blessed with a dear little old lady who does cradle roll, which we have categorized from baptism through age 3. She sends baptismal cards and with letters on their birthday and half birthdays. She gives them Christmas ornaments at Christmas. She supplies them with arch books for their baptismal birthdays. And then when they're 3 years old, they get a promotional certificate to move on to Sunday school. And that just provides another link for families, some touch points that, hey, the church is thinking about you. We value you, and we want you to have this. We want you to come and be a part of us. Let me make sure. Okay. So along with these, like I showed you this My First Hymnal, I'll talk about this a little bit later on too, but our school is working on coming up with a document to link some of these resources and pages with things that we are currently talking about in schools. So if there's something in 4-year-old preschool class that they're talking about in class, let's link that back to this My First Hymnal so we can say, yes, this is how you use this resource in your home. Turn to this page. This is what we are talking about in pre-K today. So we want our families to be guardians of the flame. We want them to be church bearers. We want families to pass on the flame. And as a church, we want to come alongside and encourage that process. This is our kindergarten Bible milestone, and this is probably one of my favorites. So I have my pre-K teacher and my K teacher lead this milestone. And so our pre-K teacher has what she calls sensory baskets or storytelling baskets. And she tells these stories throughout the year with these props. She puts everything in there that you need to tell a story about Daniel and Lion's Den. And so she gets these out and uses them and teaches those stories and uses the story Bible along with that. And then after the kids hear these enough, then they get used to telling the stories themselves. So by the time they're in kindergarten, they have been exposed to this and they get to pick the baskets and turn to whatever story they're explaining in their Bibles, and they get to tell the stories to their parents using these hands-on manipulatives. And as you can tell, the parents are very engaged, and just the expressions on the faces of this one just makes my day. I think there is some powerful stuff going on in this one. This is our second grade Bible milestone, where we give what we call our big kid Bibles. Again, that's the Faith Alive Bible that they use throughout their school years here. One generation shall commend your works to another, shall declare your mighty acts. Psalm 145. This is our Lenten Family Sunday School. And so this is one of the Family Sunday Schools that we have. Again, we have an Advent Sunday School, we have a Lenten Family Sunday School. And repeating what I said before, sometimes we give families resources and we expect them to know what to do with them. One thing that I try to do, at least at one of these, is give a My Devotions book so that the families have a resource for devotions. And then we go ahead and have a devotion right there. I pass out the devotion books and I say, okay, I'm going to give you, 10 minutes to do this devotion as your family. So families come to our Family Sunday School during Sunday school time. There's no other Sunday schools except for this Family Sunday School. And then the parents, we open up with a prayer. The parents open their devotion books and they read the devotion to their children, or if they have older children, sometimes the children reads it to their family, but within their family groups, right then and there, we do a devotion to practice that. Again, I think the teaching and modeling concept of this is so very important that we need to demonstrate, we need to model how to use these resources. And then for a craft, we always do a craft with this. We made resurrection gardens. This was one that I avoided for a while because I thought, oh, that's really going to be messy. But we got some saucers, and then we took a flower pot, turned it over, put some rocks in there, put some soil on top, sowed some grass seed, put some dirt in there, put crosses in there. And then they got to watch these resurrection gardens grow. And I've actually had mine for a year, and it was doing really well until school started and I didn't pay as much attention to it as I should have. And the grass kind of died. But it's just, again, another reminder, another touch point reminding us that we are sinful human beings in need of a savior, but that God has a plan for salvation. And so I saw a lot of these sitting on tables and things, which is pretty cool. This is our Advent Family Sunday School. To pass on the flame, you must first possess it. So this craft is, we're making a manger scene. And again, families working together. We get the dads in there too. Some dads have very, very artistic and creative abilities. And it's been a lot of fun watching families work together. And then I always encourage them, put this in a place on your kitchen table, or put it in a place where you can remember, oh yeah, when I see this, let's have family devotions. Let's set our Bible by it. Another touch point. When church becomes optional to you, it becomes unnecessary to your children. I think that this quote packs a lot of truth. When church becomes optional to you, it becomes unnecessary to your children. Again, it's not just going to happen. It requires that intentionality. Families need a firm grip on that torch, and it takes intentional effort to place it into the hands of the next generation. Again, our Advent Family Sunday School. The most important influence shaping the religious and spiritual lives of children, youth, and teenagers is their parents. And I always say, I think I have a slide. Well, we'll get to that in just a minute, but it's exhausting, but it's rewarding. It might take a while for your church. If you don't have a milestone program, it might take a while for your church to buy into it. Anything that you start new, you're going to experience some growing pains. But I remember when we first started this, I was pretty focused on attendance. I'd be like, oh, I kind of got disappointed because at first we didn't have a lot. And my pastor back then said to me, he said, you know what? He said, let's equip the ones who are there. And that was probably the best piece of advice that he could have given me. So Hebrews 10, verse 25, let us not give up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but let us encourage one another. This simple project was a project that we did for one of our Lenten family Sunday schools. This is our 1st and 6th grade stewardship milestone. So again, we give the cash cachet for the older kids. Well, at least we used to. Now we just give a divider, and then the piggy banks for the younger ones. Empowering the home. Empowering the home will take hours of work. It will outlast our current church leadership, and it will take maintained support and drive. Be a broken record. Tell your parents that they have an amazing opportunity to instill faith in their kids, and the church is going to come right alongside them and help them. I feel like I'm always saying, parents, you are the primary faith teachers in the lives of your children. Parents, you are the primary faith teachers in the lives of your children. And that is so true, so true. And it can become overwhelming for parents too. When I get overwhelmed, what do? When I get overwhelmed, I start to shut down. And so think about the demands that our parents have on them today. All the places that they're running to, all the responsibilities that they have. It's easy to be overwhelmed and then just shut down. So again, our role as a church to come alongside them and support them in whatever way we have and encourage them. So this slide I had to put in there because when we first started our milestone celebrations, we had an intern, a family life intern. And so our first intern, I remember her saying, we want to fill those kids so full of Jesus that they're going to puke Jesus. And that has just always stayed in my mind. But it is so true, because if we don't fill them with Jesus, they're going to be filled with something. So why not fill them with Jesus? And then after we had 2 family life interns, we found that it was really hard to keep continuity after they left. So that's how I came about in this position. So connecting the dots. Families are in crisis. They need help. So what better option than us, than the church, to get that support from the church? One of the ways that we do this is through our milestone celebrations. Stir passion in the church body, develop those relationships. Relationships. Our theme for this year is connected, and that relationship building is so important. It takes a while. It takes a long while, but developing those relationships, you cannot go wrong by doing that, in my opinion. And then maintaining that momentum. We have seen these milestone celebrations grow, and the kids now know that, oh yeah, this is, 3rd graders, they're going to get their catechism in this milestone. So it's a big deal. And it's really been fun to watch that grow. The picture that I have here, this is a keychain that we give to our new drivers. So this is what's given in our new driver milestone. Again, just another tangible reminder and a touch point for teens that Jesus is with them. So what does this mean? Our homes are the place where children learn how to be the people that they are. So it makes sense that we should be investing in the families. We did this, it's been several years ago, but Journey to the Cross. And so we set up different stations around our church and school grounds. We had our local high school help us out and be the actors or be the participants at the stations, or the leaders at the stations. And then if you can see the kids are holding little passports, we stamped those passports as they went along to these different stations. And it was a very cool event. Very labor intensive, but definitely an experience that many remembered. We should give them tools, equipping them, passing the faith on to children, and lifting them up in prayer every chance we get. So I'm going to give you a few examples of things that we have done here. This is at our Lenten Family Sunday School. The week that led to Easter, I gave the Arch book as a resource, and then we did Holy Week in handprints. So if you look at this poster, it's all done with handprints, different ways. We go through the entry to Jerusalem and with the donkey, and then Palm Sunday, the Last Supper, Jesus prays at the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus' death on the cross, and then the resurrection. And hopefully those went home and were hung up somewhere, and that Arch book was read, and devotion revolved around that. So questions to ask. Why are we having this event? Does it lend itself for discussions at home? And is there a take-home activity or touch point? I know I always run the fine line of families are busy, so I don't just want to have an activity to have another activity. Families have enough activities on their plate. So why are we having this event? And if it doesn't lend itself well to discussions at home, then maybe we better rethink that a little bit, because that is what our goal is. We want this to make it home for them to have discussions in the home, because again, parents are the primary faith teachers in the faith lives of their children. Is there a take-home activity or touch point? So, like I said, I have given the My Devotions book as a resource in the past for some of our family Sunday schools. The upper right picture was a craft that we did depicting the events of Holy Week. And then I think we tied little ribbons on there for acts of service, if I remember right. And then the picture on the left, Jesus is my King. So during our weekly Advent and Lenten services, I try to do something that goes along with the theme that the pastor has in his sermon. And I usually try to do it as a collaborative thing, something that fits together at the end. So Jesus is my King. Obviously, there's a crown there. I think I use the cross as the focal point. One Wednesday evening, they got a crown to put on their cross. The next Wednesday evening, they got a sponge to put on their cross. Another Wednesday evening, they got a nail to attach to their cross, or a penny to attach to their cross. Jesus is my lifesaver. I remember that's what the lifesaver was for. But again, those want that something that they can take home and then attach to something else. And hopefully that becomes a centerpiece for their kitchen table or their bedroom, or someplace where they can remember that, oh yeah, I remember what pastor said on Wednesday night. Another touch point for discussions. One year we did a prayer pocket. So the hands, and then we laminated prayers and stuck prayers in there. So, because again, families, if you want families to do these things, they need the resources. In today's day and age, they're not going to take time to look up a bunch of stuff. So we gave them the Lord's Prayer, Luther's morning and evening prayer, asking a blessing and returning thanks. And then on the backs of those, we did some more for primary age children. We did a little Easter egg thing with all of these components inside the Easter egg. Again, I think that was for a Wednesday night Lenten service, just another touch point for family discussions. These are some pictures from our Journey to the Cross event, Crown of Thorns. And yes, we had a real live donkey. He definitely added to the ambiance of the whole Journey to the Cross. We had the vinegar, sponges with vinegar, if the kids wanted to put that to their lips and taste the bitter vinegar. We had this Roman soldiers at the cross. Palm Sunday, we had the palm branches waving, and we had blankets and coats strewn along the grass, and the participants walked through the streets of Jerusalem. And then we had the empty tomb in the sanctuary. So other events that we do to support families that are church related, we have some intergenerational events. We had a hayride and wiener roast. We had something out at our city lake with music and family activities. We used to do a family Olympics where we had all kinds of competitive activities for families to do. We had a swim party with a baptismal themed devotion. Again, children's sermon handouts, just another touch point for families to have discussions. We've been caroling around Christmas. We had Grace Day that our congregation participated in, where everything was free. The youth washed cars. We had little different booths, and people from the community could come and join in our Grace Day, where everything is free. We have an angel tree at church where you can take tags off and buy gifts for families in need. We distribute some Christmas dinners, and then our children also participate in the worship services by singing, playing recorders, and other instruments. Other events to support families that are school related: we do muffins for mom, donuts for dad. This is about a half-hour time block before school starts. We do a grandparents' day. We've had a daddy-daughter dance about 3 or 4 years now, and that's been fun. Service opportunities: we have a food drive, and different classes take turns filling up some little pantry boxes that we have close by our school. We participated in the Shine event. Our alert team, Lutheran Early Response Team, our campus, our Lutheran High School has a Saints Pride work day. And then youth group, they are always working on service opportunities, raking leaves, things like that. This is what I was talking about earlier. So our school has started a mentoring time, and our mentoring time is a time when we don't necessarily deal with academic subjects, but other things. So like a character trait, we have a character trait for the month. This was obviously back in March, where we were teaching self-awareness. So we say what that is: the ability to focus on yourself and how your actions, thoughts, or emotions align with your standards. St. Augustine wrote, "Grant, Lord, that I may know myself, that I may know thee." And then how to become aware: know whom God calls you to be, learn what you are good at doing, pray God aligns your talents and call. And then we have our core values at the bottom. But this is where we're coming up with that document to say, okay, hey, in this story Bible that we gave the kindergartners, is there a story about self-awareness? And here you can see some of our character traits of the month. Is there a story that teaches empathy? Is there something in the My First Hymnal that we can link back to one of these character traits? And so again, trying to link those resources with things that we do in school as another way to get families involved in having those discussions at home. And then we also have what we call our Blue Jay Minute, which is just a little minute blurb on our website. The way we are communicating is also changing, because families aren't going to take the time to sit down and read a newsletter anymore. They want it quick. So we've started our Blue Jay Minute, just highlights some of the important things that we're doing as a church and a school, and a way to get that word out. So at the end here, I love this picture. This is a picture that my daughter took. She goes to Concordia University, Wisconsin, and just this rock and the waves coming in and out. And, you know, rocks don't get smooth by just sitting there on the shore. Rocks become smooth because they are tumbled, they are pummeled against other rocks, they are rolled in, they are rolled out. So kind of going back to my daughter's Pandas time, I would have never ever volunteered for that journey. But that being said, I would never have seen God's hand at work in some amazing ways. I would have totally missed out on that had we not been through that crisis. So God works in all ways. He works through trials, he works through temptations, and he works through the glorious moments that we celebrate as well. We are swimming against a powerful cultural current with tremendous undertow. It's strong, and it will try to drag us under. We must model to our kids that a commitment to God is eminently more important and more fulfilling than a commitment to a hobby, sporting event, or work. 50 years ago, I think families still understood that they have a responsibility to nurture their children in the faith. But nowadays, I don't know that that's true for a majority of our families. It's easy to become discouraged. It's easy to become overwhelmed. Again, just keeping strong in that faith. Take small steps. You know, this doesn't develop overnight. So take small steps and do what you can with the abilities and resources that you have. And here's my little guy again with his finished product. again, that face just says it all. Passing on the flame to the next generation. So 4 encouragements for your next steps: listen to your families, listen to them. That's all within that building relationships concept. Lament with your families. There are some families who are going through some tough times. Pray for them. Love on your young people, love on your older people too, and then build those relationships. This is one of my favorite Bible verses, Psalm 105, verse 4. Look to the Lord in his strength, seek his face always. And here at the end, I have my email address, and I'm going to leave you with this closing. May your home be a place where your children meet Jesus daily. And then I have attached a works cited page and just some resources for you to look through that have helped me do some of the things that we do. So I think that is all that I have for this presentation. Thank you, those of you who attended. And if you have questions, I will be more than happy to do what I can to answer those.
So those of you that are participating with us today live, you can put questions into the Q&A or chat if you have any for Gina, and we can answer those before we break off. But I want to thank Gina for her presentation. It's exciting to hear what you have been doing as a church there with family ministry, and trying to encourage it. As you said, I think it just does take time to build it up. We start small, but the key is to be faithful and just to stick with it and see what God will do with that in the long run.
Most certainly.
So I don't see any questions, but we do thank you for being with us today and giving the presentation. The presentation will be available on the Missouri District website under our videos. So you can look for that in the next couple of weeks. And if you want to share it with someone else, it will be there to give them the link to that and let them know. The next presentation will be in November, on Thursday, November 16th at noon. Pete and Deb Jerkin, and Pete works for Concordia Publishing House, will be presenting on the big goal, how to nurture lifelong learners of God's truth. So we invite you to come back and join us for that one. And that will also be available as a resource on our website. So thank you again, Gina, for your participation with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Blessings on your day.